When we talk of development and culture, we are often tempted to think of culture as an instrument, as use culture to bring about a message, or some development agencies or NGOs engage local theater groups in Africa, for example, to make us a play about HIV and AIDS, make us a play about domestic violence, and stuff like that. It's something that at Africalia we choose to distance ourselves from. Basically, you can quote me on this because I set this up. Art is a song, I said, not an instrument. So I hope you all understand what I mean by this. It's about the song, it's not about the instrument. It's not about using art as a tool. It's rather a means or a way to approach certain issues. Right. I'll finish with this on the story in Africa and then quickly address what we're doing in Europe with an example for this weekend. A few operational strategies that we have chosen at Africalia. So very important, we feel, well, I'll go through them one by one. Structuralization is the first one. I'll give an example to tell you what I mean. Cinéma numérique ambulant, traveling digital cinema, was an initiative that was set up in Mali, in Burkina, in Niger, and all these countries. The idea is very simple. It's a car, it's a projector, it's a screen. It travels the villages of these 4 countries and shows African and other films. Basically, these were several initiatives that were emerging, so we at Africalia saw this happen and we decided let's help them and see if we can't structuralize the whole effort into one big, so that it's a lot more sustainable, it can reach a lot more people, it has a stronger, it's a stronger partner to negotiate film rights and all of that. So that's one of the success stories on structuralization. It was said before, someone called for attention to volunteers also, not just the professional sector. I would agree with that, but only that professionalization, which is the following slide, I guess. Yeah. I'll get to this first and then go back to the previous one. Professionalization of the art sector is very important to us. This is for questions of sustainability, but in another workshop, they are addressing the economic potential of culture. Definitely, if you professionalize the arts, the economic development can be enormous. This not only in terms of link with tourism, but also artists that get recognized outside their own countries, other African countries, as well as Europe and the world. Big festivals like, for example, Haifa is a large festival in Harare, Zimbabwe. It's the highlight of the year. You might know that Zimbabwe is in a difficult situation at the moment, that inflation's rife. Haifa is a festival that's been going on for 8 years. They are the highlight of the year to bring out a lot of international artists, bring them in connection with the local art scene, and 2 points of this festival, 2 elements of this festival we find very interesting, and that's where we have put our money as well. The artistic and technical development and exchange workshops. So all the artists that perform at this festival are invited to present workshops for other artists, for the public to participate, and that way exchange skills. Another element that we find very interesting is the youth training. There's a lot of street kids in Harare at the moment. They get fully involved, employed by the festival. Not just employed, they get trained as well in venue management, public relations, so that people get some skills which will help them towards next jobs and so on. I have to quickly come back to this. I don't want to say too much about this because we are mainly working with civil society grassroots level, bottom up, as Judith mentioned as well. That's where we are, and that's where our strength is. I'm only mentioning this because, for example, in Burkina Faso, there's a lot happening. There's the yearly FESPACO, which is an international film festival. The government's very involved in that. But we are working with Waga Hip Hop, Jazza Waga, Nuit Atypique de Koudougou, Yelen. These are all events that have come out of the civil society We've helped them grow stronger by funding them, by structuring their organizations. So these organizations have created a culture dynamic that was never seen before, and it's very strong in Burkina. You could expect that the government then in that country would come out with an acclaimed cultural policy with a long-term vision. But I'll say no more, because I don't want to knock down Burkina at all, because it's actually a very dynamic, culturally dynamic country. But I think that's what we have to see at the European level, and that's why I'm mentioning this, is that we shouldn't expect Europe or the political level to dictate or to tell us which is the way to go. It's rather up to the political level or the administration, European level, to listen and look for the civil society and what's happening on the ground, and learn from there and take what's living there, and look for how can we reinforce what's going on, and how can we make sure that in 10 years it still exists or is going in that direction of intercultural dialogue and all of that. Because there is a lot happening on the ground, even in Europe. I mean, I'm quite surprised to see so many European connected people here. I was expecting a lot more civil society members to be present. I'm not sure if they're here. It doesn't matter at this stage, but that's why this is mentioned here. Okay. Decentralization is a fourth element. Let's not focus on the big cities only. Let's also make sure that, like for example here, Wagga hip hop is dead. Long live Wagga hip hop. Little story around that. Wagga hip hop, Wagga from Ouagadougou, which is the main city in Burkina Faso. They have realized that they were pulling a lot of youth from the villages to the city, and they would remain in the big city and not go back. So it's a big element at Africalia as well, very supportive of traveling initiatives, of people taking that festival out and go also to, I mentioned a few other towns in Burkina Faso where the festival is present now. And that's why they've changed their name recently, from Wagga Hip Hop to Wagga Hip Hop, which doesn't link to the capital anymore. This is a big help in stabilizing populations, we believe, because it stabilizes communities, because there is things happening, there's things for local communities to identify with, and all this is very important. How am I on time? I'm nearly there. Contemporary culture is a final focal point. This is what we do. Africalia is focused on contemporary culture, not history, not museums, not heritage, patrimoine, not really. Contemporary culture is what we look at, and then mainly in its expressive artistic forms. I've mentioned a few reasons why we do that, or a few advantages of doing that, or results, if you like. Focusing on contemporary culture counters immediately all the historical cliches, because you have to answer today in your creations, in your artistic expressions, in your culture. You have to answer to these cliches that are very much present. It also refutes the demons of the past,